And then the splicing. So what is splicing? It is the area found between the end of one roll of fabric and the beginning of the next roll of the fabric. It is usually resulted based from the overall fabric quality and the marker. As you can see from the picture, there's an overlapping layers in between the two ends of a lay. It is considered as a major defect because it can produce waste material in manufacturing, but it can still be met by repairing it through creating a new style. And then the next one, let's discuss what is a hole. A hole is an imperfection where one or more yarns are sufficiently damaged to create an opening in the fabric, just like what the picture shows. It is usually resulted due to the use of broken needles in the manufacturing process and using rough mechanical parts in the manufacturing process. It is also treated as a major defect because it often results in the rejection of the fabric by the customers and obviously be seen in the fabric. Hole is not mendable because it can lessen the overall quality of the production. Next is the broken peak. This defect is visible as a broken filling yarn in the weaving fabric, usually as a sharp discontinuity in the weave pattern over the peak length. It is resulted because of the machine which is not functioning properly, as well as if the weaving personnel were not able to identify and promptly replace any broken peaks. It is considered as a minor defect since it is not noticeable and can be prevented through putting a design on it. And then the overlap thread. It is one of the fabric defect in which extension or overlapping layers of yarns to the end of the length occurs. It is considered as a minor defect since it is very easy to fix. It is actually mendable and can be prevented by cutting the overlap layers using a hot knife so that it will turn to a nice looking fabric edge.
Next is abrasion marks. It is a kind of fabric defect which occurs due to abrasion of metallic or non-metallic object with the fabric surface during either in weaving or in processing. The picture shows major problem because as we see that the yarn surface gets ruptured. The threads are displaced too due to rubbing, and this defect is not curable by any means. So we should always take extra care during weaving and processing. The next is the crease marks. It often happens when fabric passes through squeeze rollers in dyeing process. This is caused by poor quality of fabric and poor suitability of machine. The folds are not moving properly. As we can see on the picture, is karang daghan siya og lukot-lukot, and it can be a major or minor problem, depends on seriousness. This defect can be mended through using anti-creasing agents. If it is not that serious, we can use the iron to minimize the crease. Thick and thin place. The picture shows that the thick place will appear as a small area of more closely spaced yarns or by a congregation of thick yarns. A thin place is the opposite, as the fabric will appear to have loosely spaced yarns or a congregation of thin yarns. Main causes are irregular let-off and incorrect setting of holding. This is a major problem, but it can be mended. A weaver can minimize this defect up to some extent by using two-weave feeder in the loom during weaving. These defects are repaired during mending by eliminating the thick and thin place. This is the horizontal lines. It is defined by irregular lines that run from side to side. These are caused by unevenness in the courses. It is a major problem because as we can see, they traverse horizontally and repeat themselves regularly or irregularly. This can be prevented by regularly replace the bobbin and frequently check thread tension and positioning, but it cannot be mended because it's a major defect.
A bari is an unintentional repetitive visual pattern of continuous bars and stripes. Bari is typically the result of physical, optical, or dye differences in yarns or geometric differences in fabric structure. So the picture shows Bari because if yarns with these variations are made into fabric, then dyed, so the result made a bar-like pattern of darker and lighter shades or light hue differences. This defect is clearly to be a minor problem, but it can be mended through dyeing in order to cover its nips or knots. Nips are small, tightly tangled, knot-like masses of unorganized fibers that are formed in a pinhead shape. Nips and knots are typically the result of accumulation of fly and flap machinery, poor link cleaning, poor carding, and incomplete removal of nips before processing. So the picture shows nips or knots because it has a small tangled knot. This defect is minor problem which is not really seen. It can be mended by putting or adding some designs to cover the defects. Needle lines. Needle lines appear in weave knit fabrics and appear as prominent vertical streaks or lines in the fabric. Needle lines are typically the result of needle latches, hooks, or steams might be mixed, new, or contaminated with link, bent, and worn. So the picture shows needle lines because of the vertical lines in the fabric. This defect is a minor problem and it can be mended through designing it in order to cover the defect. So let's move to other defects. Run. Sewing stitch made by passing the needle in and out repeatedly with short, even stitches. It is typically the result of small, even hard stitches run in and out. The defect is a minor problem and it can be mended by cutting it and form in a new style or even with designs.